All right, so this is the second part of Chapter 15 about renewable resources. My other PowerPoint cut out, the sound stopped working about halfway through, so I'll finish the PowerPoint here and hopefully you guys can hear this one. This is a look at the world's largest dam, showing satellite images taken in 2000 and 2006, showing how the floodplain of that area is now completely flooded and many people lost their homes due to that. Here's looking how dams will influence seasonal flows of water. The red line is showing the seasonal flow in 1935 of the Colorado River and it experienced high flows of water during spring and early summer, but after construction of a dam, water flow became relatively constant as shown in the blue line in 1972. The future development of hydropower is that about 1/5 of global potential hydropower is already being used. New dams going forward are considered too costly to build. Financial reasons, social reasons, and also environmental reasons. But many existing dams are being upgraded. Here's a look at the tide rising and falling about 40 feet in a barrage. That's the little separator shown in this picture in France. And in this barrage, there's turbines that spin and generate electricity as water moves in and out of the bay. So then we move to ocean energy sources and production. It takes advantage of the tides, the waves, and the temperature differences. Tidal power is driven by the moon, so that turbines will turn as tides enter into and out of the bays. And wave power uses kinetic energy of waves. So it's a really cool system how they harness ocean energy for electricity. The ocean thermal energy conversion is just the rate at which they can harness that energy. Here's a look at a tidal turbine, which was installed in Europe, in Scotland in 2012. It can generate about 1.2 megawatts of renewable energy, which is enough to service about 1,000 homes. Here's a look at onshore wave energy and the system that is created when waves move in and cause the water to move up and down in the lower chamber of the system. This will drive a stream of air past the generator turbine, causing the turbine blades to move and creating electricity in the generator. Advantages and disadvantages of ocean energy. It's fuel and pollution-free, very low greenhouse gas emissions. But disadvantages are it does cause loss of land, it can disrupt ocean ecosystems, it's limited and only being able to be used if you live near the oceans, and it's not yet completely cost competitive. Then we'll move on to geothermal energy, and this is the last renewable energy source we'll cover. Geothermal energy refers to heat energy that is generated and stored in the earth itself. It can be harnessed by a dry steam power plant, flash steam, and ground source heat pumps. This is a look at a dry steam power plant where underground hot water and steam are used to generate electricity. The advantages and disadvantages of geothermal energy: it's very reliable and relatively inexpensive. It's pollution-free. The disadvantages are that it can be overused and the startup cost is extremely high, and like many things, it's based on where it's located or found. Here are places in the country where the temperature of the rocks reaches above 200 degrees Celsius at depths of 6 kilometers, which is where the geothermal reservoirs would be sufficient enough to power a power plant, and a lot of them are found in the western US. The future use of geothermal energy, it's expected to become more important in available areas. New plants are making reinjection efforts to sustain the source, and new installations in the US are increasing about 10 to 20% per year. Then there's a couple slides left about energy conservation and efficiency. Remember that primary energy consumption, the source will vary by the income and location of these countries. Biomass is typical in developing countries where fossil fuels like oil and coal still dominate wealthy countries. End-use sectors refer to how these energy sources are used. Transportation is a big one, industry, residential, commercial, and electricity. Fuel efficiency, this shows gas mileage for passenger vehicles in red versus SUVs, and you can see how passenger cars, their gas mileage or miles per gallon has greatly increased over the years. SVUs and trucks have increased greatly, but then have kind of flattened out since the year 1995. Here's a look at a solar-powered car after 7 days and 3,000 kilometers in the sun. This Dutch car crossed the finish line in Australia. When we're looking at energy efficiency, we compare the environmental costs, and environmental impacts are difficult to quantify. All primary energy sources have some sort of environmental impacts that'll affect the air and water quality, disrupt the ecosystems, and will emit some sort of greenhouse gases. There was an industrial ecologist known as Anders Stroman who analyzed energy and natural resource use over the entire lifetime of automobiles and found that electric vehicles still come up short in terms of relative efficiency when you calculate out how much energy is required to make them and how much energy or environmental use is required to dispose of them. Deciding on appropriate primary energy source depends on its cost, where it's available, what's the energy conversion efficient rate, how it impacts the environment, and any other risks involved. Energy conservation can help meet growing energy demands. The economic energy intensity is a measure of the overall energy efficiency. This is the amount of energy used per dollar output, and again, this is higher in industrial countries. This is a look at greenhouse gas emissions per kilometer, averaged over the full lifetime of electric, high efficiency diesel, and gasoline powered vehicles. And note that the production phase accounts for a much greater proportion of lifetime emissions for electric vehicles compared to other types. So what that just means is that it does emit a lot of greenhouse gases in the production phase of electric vehicles. Incentives for efficiency, you might notice a guide like this shown on all appliances that you buy. Appliances that meet EPA Energy Star standards clearly display the average annual energy use and likely annual cost to the consumer. So if we were in class, we would have a discussion about electric vehicles and what you guys think are do the benefits outweigh the production and disposal of vehicles. Anders Stroman addresses this issue using the life cycle assessment, where he recorded energy consumed from the cradle of production to the end use, the grave, of electric vehicles, gas and diesel powered, and he found that electric vehicles still come up short when you take into account how much is required to make them and also to dispose of them. Sustainable energy, some sorts of policies and other economics of scale measure economic benefits. Conservationists view this as a win-win, yet the cost might be prohibitive. We talk about the cost of saved energy. Some policy options are government mandates, like the renewable portfolio standards that mandate a certain percentage of energy uses from renewables. A lot of it is just consumer education, like the EPA Energy Star program, letting consumers know what appliances they are buying that meet energy standards. So we can let consumers know about lighting and appliance efficiency, what type of light bulbs you want to buy, how to put them on standby mode, and then automobile efficiency. We have so many options for fuel efficient cars nowadays. Some are fossil fuel free, and it's just educating consumers about the choices that they can make. Thanks for listening, guys. Hopefully this one will work.